Today is, we're going to talk about progress that's been done at the lime kilns in the last 3 or 4 years, and I'm not going to spend too much about the history, certainly nothing about the history of why the lime kilns are there. But as I understand it, and I've got one person here that could correct me, that there were 6 guys having lunch or breakfast or coffee or something back in the late 70s, and they put a bid in on the Hurstville property, which amounted to something north of 600 acres, plus the town and the lime kilns, and across the river there's a few acres and a lot of farm ground and all that. But part of it was the lime kilns, and I don't know if you can read this is the last paragraph in the lime kilns brochure, but it pretty much came here.
They can't hear you, Rich.
It pretty much came to come.
I can hear. Who can't hear? I mean, it sounds. You can't hear it either. I don't think it gets much louder than that.
Okay. It's already echoing.
Yeah, there's. I mean, that's pretty loud.
They can use their chairs.
Well, briefly, the lime kilns were donated to the Historical Society. I believe the date was 1981, and the 6 families that donated it were Bob and Mim and Osterhaus that are sitting back here, Chuck and Mona Reisling and Kamana sitting back here, Dave and Karen Schinthaler, Bill and Francis Lamb, Bob and Mim Stockham, and Cliff and Marceline Lamborn. The restoration started in 1981. This is Bob Sheets, if you don't recognize him. Yep. 81 was a long time ago. And that's what some of it looked like. And that's how deteriorated I think that's the north kiln, but that's how deteriorated it was when they started. I know that Bob told me that they got a big oil tank or fuel barrel, they cut it in half, and they made 2 of the chimneys for the lime kilns. So they're not all original. And I understand from Bob and from Jim Current and other folks that they gathered rock from about every farm around the country that was within driving distance. I know that the McCloy Mill Foundation went into it. I'm pretty sure that my grandparents' farm, that Cliff Lamborn owned, the Wilcox Farm, I'm sure that foundation went into it. And I think every other foundation that they could get their hands on. So just a couple more pictures of the restoration. This is a rock quarry. I don't know if it was Melvin Foster's, but anyway, it was just a shot of them digging rock out. The property is in certainly a unique shape, and it's about 3 acres. In 2018, middle of the winter, we set out with Harold Lubin, and there was about 6 of us. I think Jack was there. I don't know. Kevin, were you there as well? Anyway, there was 6 or 7 of us, and we went out to find the pins, the surveying pins from when it was given to us. We started on the north side, and we did find a pin or 2 up there. When we went around to the south side, every place there was a corner post in the fence that was put in about 1980. there was a surveying pin there. So after we found a couple of them, then it became a little bit easier to go. In, I believe it was 2022, that the University of Iowa engineering students did a survey of the property, and there was 2 groups from that, and they made a lot of recommendations about how to develop the property. This was a picture that they took at that time. The reason I selected this one, this is what it looked like when they were looking at it, particularly this large tree. I think it's a soft maple, and all the brush and everything here. Everything's closed up here. You can see just a little bit of the rock crushing building, which was a building that was put up after the lime kilns closed. The tree blew down in a storm, and I guess that's another shot of the same thing. While we're on this shot, the drain for this property is about right there. And when I stumbled on it, we didn't even know it was there. This is the trail on the top of the dike going west. And when we started on that, you couldn't even walk through it, of course. The steps were put in with the restoration of the lime kilns, and I believe that Stone City donated the original steps for that, and we had the 2x4 railing, which you can see where we'd made some repairs on it earlier. This was the steps going up to the ramp. The ramp starts at the river, North Fork of the Maquoketa River. There's part of a bridge still there. It's pretty much a continuous slope all the way to the west, and the ramp got the track and the rock crush, or the mining carts full of rock, they got raised up high enough that they could dump the rock into the top of the lime kilns. But the ramp that goes all the way to the river was completely overgrown. This is a set of steps that was put in the early 80s to get up to the top of the ramp. But that's what they look like. There's another shot of the same thing. So that's pretty much what we started with in 2022. The first concern the committee, the board had was the safety of the rock crushing building, and there was people that could do graffiti up in here, and of course they'd crawl around underneath, and we set out to try to make it so that no one could actually get inside the property. This is after we started cleaning, so there's a few shots like that, but you can see the difference exposing the steps now from what it was before. And this is after we cleared some brush around the rock crusher building. I think all those things were done in about 2022. There was a set of railroad tie steps going up to the dike. The dike is to keep the Maquoketa River from flooding back onto the property. And that was done originally when they developed the lime kiln property. That's a shot of looking about where the drainage is supposed to be. We went out, I think it was 2023, but we went out to push this soft maple, this ginormous soft maple tree to, it had dropped. The county conservation had pushed it far enough out of the way so that you could actually use the property. And we went out to try to get it back away from off the yard. And we discovered that the drainage that is supposed to go out this culvert had trees growing right in the base, right in the middle of it. I mean, it was completely closed off. After I was pushed for about a day and a half, I discovered that there was a culvert along there because it was so piled high that you couldn't tell. The University of Iowa students made a recommendation, a lot of recommendations, but they proposed making a hiking trail that you can see that basically from the blue line, and their trail was pretty much on the perimeter of the fence line here to the back of the property and then come back out up here. I didn't see this map when we started, but we knew we wanted to have a trail. So down here where it's a sign now where the Hurstville sign is down there, but you couldn't walk past the fence. There was enough rock that it caved down towards the fence that there was no such thing as a trail right in this spot. And got in there with a skid loader, we dug it out and reshaped that whole area. And then with chainsaws and skid loader to push, we just kept working up there and just building the trail through the timber. Went all the way to the back of the property, which would be down in here. Well, we went through the middle of the rock crusher, but we continued on down and got on the ramp to come back up to where the other set of steps would be, and discovered that years and years and years ago somebody had made a garbage dump back there, and they'd cut into the ramp and buried a lot of garbage and then covered the garbage up with the fill from the ramp. So that all got dug out. We burned a lot and we got it buried. And then, so we start the ramp back here at the end of the property to walk and build a trail up the ramp all the way. Of course, as we go on, you discover that right in here, there's, I think this is wrong, but right in here is the bridge, or where they had to cut in the ramp so that they'd have access to bring wagons and stuff up through that, and there'd be a bridge over the top of it where the track was with the mining carts. Also, as long as we're on this shot, the dike is coming along about here. I think it's right in there, the part that was overgrown. And after we got enough brush out of there, we discovered that there was a trail that had totally overgrown with trees in it, that where they would have used it originally to get up on top of the dike to come around. So the trails that we built are not too far off, or maybe exactly where they had had their trails to go up in there. But it was well camouflaged until we got enough brush out of the way. Then you could see the line coming down the slope. This is just a shot of the drain. The engineering students recommended we put 2 drains in there, so they did not know that this existed. This is a flapper on the creek side, so that when there's high water, that it's a backflow prevention valve. It's in excellent shape. I don't know when that was put in, but I suspect maybe when the first 2 lanes of Highway 61 was rebuilt. This is another shot of what the looks like before we started. The rock laying in there. You could walk through it, but that was it. So about a year ago, I've got a couple, 2 years ago, I guess it'd be a bit close to 3 now, when they remodeled Goodnoe Field up here and changed the chain link fence. We've got a roll that weighed well more than 1,000 pounds of chain link fence that we salvaged from that, and we parked it back on the back here with intent of using that to put some kind of a fence around the rock crushing building. And so when we got around to it and we got the brush cleared, because there was brush all the way, like where Bob Sheets is standing right now. That was totally overgrown. You couldn't even get to it. But we measured what we needed, rolled it out here on the parking lot, separated it out, and took it up there, and you can see where we've got part of it up now behind the pickup, where we wrapped the building with that and secured it. I managed to turn this off. Another thing we did, the north lime kiln this is what it looked like. The firebox had fallen apart. People were taking bricks. I think some of them are closely related to somebody who's sitting in the front row here. The word grandchildren came to mind.
I think you're right.
But we relayed them and put up a grate for that. So that was one of the things. The roof on the picnic shelter had failed to the point that the plywood had to be replaced in a couple of shots. So this was in the summer of 2023, I believe. Huh?
You got my best side.
Yeah. Kevin's iconic hat there. In 2024, we started on building the trails and seeing what we could do. We had no idea that we'd get as far as we did. But it was an open winter, so I don't know, about this time last year, we decided to start working on it. And we needed a bridge to cover to cross where the cut is in the rock. So this is a shot of pouring the footings for that. There's no way to get up there with a vehicle, so every one of those sacks of pre-mixed concrete, which was about 30 on each side, had to be carried in there and put up the forms. They've got re-rod. Bill Schwanker dug the footings for it, and my pointer gave up, so the county had some, we got a couple of I-beams from the county that were about 32 foot long, and we got those fished down the road. This road belongs to Bob Garian, so we use that access. It was kind of fun threading that through the timber. We do not have a picture of Squeak McMahon setting the beams. It was he was going to be there at 9 o'clock on a Saturday morning, I think, and anyway, we got there. I got there about maybe 20 to 9 because we had to cut the fence to get in. The fence was cut, and he was on his way, and he picked them up with his log truck or his scrap metal truck. I don't think there's any difference. He set them in that, he backed up to it and set them down, and by 9 o'clock he was out of there. And I know there was a couple of people come to watch it, and all they did was see him leave. After we set them on the same day, I tricked my son-in-law and my grandson into welding the cross braces in for us. So you can see we laid the first piece of plank. The county also had used bridge plank that we cut in, let's see, was it 5 foot, 6 foot lengths? Bill?
Might have been 6.
Yeah. Anyway, we bolted each one down, we also had clips donated to clip the bridge planks to the I-beams, but you can see where the cross bracing is in there, and the footing is sitting into a pocket, and then we poured another step so that there's only one step to get up in. So we have a few, I think this is a shot of when we poured the step on top of what we had. And like I said, unless you had a concrete pumper, which you couldn't get there either, because you have to get down that trail to get there. So we had no choice but to do it all by hand. And a few shots of building the bridge. We have sawed 6x6s 14 foot long for a potential water tank for it to go with the depot, and we had a bunch of 2x left from it. These were power poles that Tom and Linda Stewart had donated, and there was a fellow east of Miles that sawed them that I can't think of his name at the moment, but he looked me square in the eye and said, "I am not looking for work." So, but we had a pallet full of 2x4s, 2x6s that we sawed to width, and then we built the rail out of all those. So the rail was 100% donated as well. We were lucky enough that we had 2 people that were experienced at building bridges. So this is the top of the trail that never existed before. And I don't think the engineering students said we should build a bridge either, did they? We added, on those steps I showed you previously, we added 6 steps to get up there. The others were left over from the other steps that after they built the main set of steps, they had the ones on the bottom, and so they set them up and it got about halfway. But Stone City did donate those steps, and I saw the invoice. It was, I think, $1,350. A tremendous, I have no idea how many hours of brush cutting, but cleaning up the rock along the wall. Right in here, but you saw the previous pictures, you couldn't see any of that kind of stuff, so I would guess we had at least 20 fires over a couple, 3-year period of time. The next issue was that we'd like to have folks see inside in this case, the North Kiln, and I think they got a set of steps from Mount Garion, I believe, that went up into a trailer house or something, and that was sitting there, and it sort of worked, but We got at least 1 truckload of lime. Was it 1 or 2 truckloads? That was donated too, wasn't it? Yeah. So we built a lime platform, and then we completely remodeled the steps with 2 railings and reinforcement, and set it in their level so that when you're on the trail, you can walk up and look into the lime kiln. The board bought 2 benches with names of the original donors, and we poured a pad for each of them. This is later in the year. We set the benches up above so you can overlook you're on the high side, overlooking the highway and the grounds. This is Bill Schwanker's garage, in case you...
That's my little red wagon.
So I took a couple shots, so if you get up there and you sit on a bench, that's what you get to see. Right after we did this, we put seating down immediately, and then it didn't rain for 2 or 3 months.
Of course.
This is the trail. So this is the dike that comes out. So this is what holds the water. And this is the trail we built, and then it comes up and then comes along the dike and eventually gets up onto the dike. The state is going to bring in a couple more loads of dirt so we can fill in this divot right there. The trail is all built with wood chips from the, I think they all came from the Coconut Municipal when they chipped trees. We, I guess I have a stump grinder on permanent loan from relatives in Indiana, and I think we ground, I don't know, 20, 30 stumps. Yeah. I know that Bob Sheets wore out several chains because a stump like this, he would cut it as close to the ground as we could, and then we try to grind it just below the surface so that we didn't stump over it. We still have one to go. We brought dirt into the center area because this was just a mud lot. It was surprising how much dirt it took to build that up. Down below, this is another bench that was donated. Do we know who?
We do?
Yeah.
Yeah. to honor Nancy Flagle. Bob Sheets patched some of the one wall, the east wall, on the cut because a lot of it was down. This is a picture of the steps, and the committee talked about, well, we could get by another year or so because we did all these other things, but then the upper steps didn't have a railing either, and Larry McDivitt had the railing pieces from salvage, and Art Brandenburg had a hydraulic bender to bend rail, and along with Jack and others, this is what they built. So, heck of a difference. Probably easily the greatest volunteer that we've had out there is Nancy Flegel. She's been doing this for 25 years. And all the flowers that you see out there are pretty much her fault. So, I know that once in a while she tells that if somebody hands her a couple $100 or something to buy plants, and a lot of people around town have plants they share or cut them out, you know, they divide them out. I think her work accelerated last year because as we were reshaping things and we brought in black dirt and arranged rocks and that, then we kind of you know, she felt compelled to fill up the space. Hopefully, she doesn't have to put that kind of time in the coming year in order to have it. She does have a rock. You can pick it up there. Not only is the sign cleaned up, but this whole area back in here was not walkable a couple years ago. I know that it started with Bob Sheets cutting out a lot of brush, and we burned a lot of, you know, we burned that up, and we moved a lot of rock. We cut, this is where we had to cut through the rubble in order to get on to the property to the east. The next to the last, I guess the last project for last year was that the picnic shelter got painted, a couple coats. The Kiwanis Club did that. So rather than having a shelter with the roof falling in on it, now we've got a nice shelter. I could also point out that this is where the railroad tie steps were. And they do no longer exist, and hopefully in the next year or so that'll get grown over so that it's just part of the landscape. We stacked a bunch of rock in there to discourage the hikers from taking a shortcut. Our next exciting project is that Terrell Saunders had a rock crusher that would be very close to what the rock crusher would have been like up on the west side of the rock crusher building. And anyway, we don't have it moved up there yet, but it's going to get moved up hopefully yet this spring and set just about like the other one would have been. And so that'll be our next feature out there. We'll take it off the wheels because it'll be a permanent establishment. That's it.